This week we celebrate Gaudete Sunday, the third Sunday in Advent. Beyond representing the week with the most heated competition for Advent wreath candle lighting in households across the globe, this week invites us to take a step back from some of the more somber themes of Advent anticipation to celebrate the nearness of the birth of Jesus. It is an opportunity to rejoice and reflect on the love that God has for us, a love so deep that he gives himself to us in all his fullness, without holding anything back. In so many ways, it is not hard to reflect on love at Christmas time. The Christmas season is full of expressions of love. Time with family, Christmas carols on the radio, and gifts both given and received are just some of the ways we celebrate the affection that we have for one another. And yet, this week in Advent calls us to reflect on the fullest expression of those feelings. What would it mean for us to give ourselves totally to one another as God does for us? Now, while I am someone who generally struggles to connect emotionally with scriptural expressions of love, I find the story of Jesus and the rich young man very helpful in framing the kind of love to which we are called. In Mark's gospel, we are told that Jesus encounters a rich young man who wants to know what he must do to get into heaven. His intentions seem sincere, and we are told that looking at him, Jesus felt genuine love for him. Without knowing the man, Jesus responds with an open heart to his needs. Of course, it is also here that we learn what is expected out of us from this kind of love. Jesus tells the man that if he wants to love as God does, he must sell all that he has and give to those in need. The young man leaves discouraged. He wants to do good, but he cannot accept the cost to himself. Ultimately, Jesus' encounter with the rich young man and the message of love we are called to during this week of Advent is a message about more, both in terms of audience and intensity. We are challenged to step beyond a definition of love that operates within the comfortable but limited parameters of our existing relationships. We are also challenged to step beyond a definition of love as just an emotional state, rather than an act of ongoing commitment. Love is those things, but it is also more. Love, as we are called to live it, is surrender. My wife and I are expecting our first child in the spring. Sitting on the precipice of this life-changing event, I feel closer than I ever have before to appreciating the full magnitude of this kind of love. Without meeting my son, or even really understanding what his addition to our lives will mean for us, I feel ready as a family to say an enthusiastic yes to what is asked of us when he arrives. It feels like standing on the edge of a huge unknown, and yet feeling a joyful willingness to jump in. In this season, when we are offered so many wonderful expressions of holiday love, we are invited to reflect, how could we love even more? Can we not just receive our spouse's difficult boss into our home like Mrs. Cratchit, but actively welcome them? Can our heart grow not just 3 sizes in one day, like the Grinch's, but 4? When we hear "All I Want for Christmas Is You" on the radio, which we inevitably will, can we imagine that you including a really difficult person in our lives? In the end, the ambitious image of love portrayed in Jesus' encounter with the rich young man should encourage, not discourage us. While we may fall short in our own daily encounters, like the rich young man does, every encounter is an opportunity to revisit the question. Every encounter is an opportunity to answer with a more resounding yes.